Here's the big challenge of life. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. That's the challenge. And of course, the other side of the coin reads, unless you change how you are, you will always have what you got. I have found in my experience that income doesn't far exceed personal development. Now, sometimes income takes a lucky jump, but sure enough, unless you grow out where it is, it'll usually come back where you are. Life has strange ways. If somebody hands you $1 million, best you become a millionaire quickly, so you get to keep the money. Otherwise, sure enough, it'll disappear. Somebody once said, if you took all the money in the world, divided it up equally among everybody, it would all be back in the same pockets. Incredible. Success is something you attract, not something you chase. Success is looking for a good place to stay. So, instead of going after it, you work on yourself, personal development. See, the major question to ask on the job is not, what are you getting? The major question to ask on the job is, what are you becoming? See, the big question is not, what am I getting paid here? The big question is, what am I becoming here? Because true happiness is not contained in what you get. Happiness is contained in what you become. So, that's our major subject for tonight. Personal development of all assignment Mr. Schiffer gave me at age 25. This was probably the most difficult. In fact, I'm still working on this one. I think it's an ending challenge to see what you can become. The next subject is called basic laws, and it's good to study the basics. I can these basics primarily because they come from the Bible. No, I'm not a minister, and that'll be apparent. But Mr. Schiffer taught me the Bible was good textbook for ideas and stories and success equations. How to live a better life. I found out that was true. He also taught me that the Bible is as practical as it is spiritual, and I found out that's true. If you look at the bank account and your income, you're not happy. There are several places in the Bible to check to see how the heck's wrong, so you can make changes. And we're gonna cover some of this tonight, called basics. Okay, the next subject is my favorite, setting goals. Mr. Schiffer taught me how to set goals. What a favor was. One morning at the breakfast shortly after I met him, he said, Jim, let me see your current list of goals and let's go over them and talk about them. He said, maybe this is the best way I can help you get a better direction started. And I said, I don't have a list. He said, well, is it out in the car or home somewhere? I said, no, sir. I don't have a list anywhere. He said, well, young man, that's where we got to start. He said, I can tell you right now, if you don't have a list of your goals with you, I can guess your bank balance within few, which he did. And that got my attention. I said, you mean my bank balance would change if I had a list of goals? He said, drastically. That day, I become a willing student how to set goals, and sure enough, learning how to set goals changed my life. And I often wondered why no one had ever taught me how to set goals up until age 25. I went to high school, but if they offered it, I missed it. I went to college for a year, never heard it. I worked for Sears, really? And to my knowledge, Sears never taught it, right? How to set goals. So here I am, age 25, married my family, starting. I've been to college, I'm working, and I still don't know how to set goals. But fortunately, when I was 25, I met the man who taught me how, and it revolutionized my whole life, economically, socially, personally. It is incredible. So I want you to share with you tonight what Mr. Schiffer shared with me, how to set goals. It can be a life changer. Okay, the next subject is the negative part of the seminar. Life is part negative. So we've got to talk about the negative, and the subject is called diseases of attitudes. There is a lot of things that can wreck your chances to do well. We live in a rather dangerous world, so we've gotta be not only wise, we've gotta be careful. Now, attitude diseases are just as bad as physical diseases, right? High blood pressure, heart trouble, a lot of things less your chances to do well. So we've gotta be careful, and attitude diseases are deadly. They'll destroy all the good things you start. Okay, so we'll go through these attitude diseases, how to spot them, how to look for them, what are they, and the cure. And I'm a pro on these because I've had them all, so I can give you excellent advice on this one. Now, the last subject we're gonna consider tonight is called the day that turns your life around. And under this subject, we're gonna talk about the emotions that can change your life. Human beings are emotional creatures, and emotions are powerful for life change. Now, of course, emotions are so powerful that can go either way on on you. Emotions can either build or destroy. So really have to imply emotions properly. We call it civilization, intelligence management of human emotion. If we can intelligently apply your emotion in the right direction, no telling what can happen. Could turn your life around one day would be sufficient. So we'll talk about those, okay? Now, that's a lot of to cover in one morning, but we'll keep it here and see if we can get it all done. I'd like to have you now jot down the theme of the seminar. Every seminar should have a theme. I guess we've got one. It is on some of our literature. If you happen to notice, but if you didn't, for your notice, here it is. The theme of the seminar goes like this. The major key to your better future is you. I'd like you to have you underline the word just to give it some added punch. Underline the word major and the word you. So that is reads. The major key to your better future is you. Now, my first suggestion is transfer this card to a something where you can put it up where you can see it every day. Preferably put it up where you can see it at the beginning of the day. Before you go off to put the day together. This is a good phrase just to glance to keep in mind as you're putting the day together. It's called difference. Why would one person do twice as well, 3 times as well? Speaking economically, now I know there is more than one way to do well. I understand that, but in this little narrow area called compensation, what's the difference? Well, back then with my faulty thinking, I'm trying to reason it out. Thought, well, maybe time makes some difference. Maybe one person's been there longer and short enough that does make some difference. But then I thought, no, it can be just time, because some people work longer and they don't have anything to show it for. They've been there longer, but they don't make any more money. Then I thought maybe it is a chance. Maybe it's who gets the breaks. And sure enough, that does play a role sometimes. But then I thought, no, it can just be just chance, because there are some people who seem to be able to create their own luck. Then I thought maybe it's education, and that does have some bearing, but it's not the key, because everybody know people of the difference, right? Some people do better because they have more time. I used to say Harold ought to be able to do well. He's got a lot of time. If I had all of Harold's time, I could do well. Now that's gotta be dumb, right? Number one, you can get somebody else's time. A guy says to me one time, he says, you know, if I had extra time, I could make extra money. I said, then forget it. There isn't any extra time. Hey, when the clock strikes to midnight, that's about wrap it up, right? I mean, you can look around for a little more, but it's over. You can say to the guy, where are you doing? I'm looking for extra time. See, they'll come and take you away right there. There isn't any more time. Now, if you can get more time, what could you get more of that would make a difference in economic result? And here's the key word, make it a part of your notes. We're gonna consider it tonight. The world is value, and I have a little phrase, what to do with. First lesson of economics, we primarily get paid for value. That's lesson 1. Bringing value to marketplace, that's how you get paid. You don't get paid for the time. I know it takes time to bring value to the marketplace, but you get paid for the value, not the time. Now, since that's true, here is one of the key questions of the evening. Is it possible to become twice as valuable at the marketplace and make twice as much money in the same time? Could you become 3 times as valuable, make 3 times as much money in the same time? Is it possible? The answer is yes, if, and it is always if, right? Life is known as the big if. Harry Truman once said, life is iffy. How true. And here is the big if we're gonna consider tonight. It is possible to do much better at the marketplace if you go to work primarily on yourself. And that is the theme of our seminar tonight, learning to work primarily on yourself. People have asked me, handshake, as easy as that would be to start on. They let it slide, they don't understand. Develop an above average smile, develop an above average excitement, develop an above average interest in other people, develop an above average intensity to win. See, that will change everything. Probably one of the most frustrating experiences in life is looking for an above average job with above average pay without becoming an average person. It is called frustration, and Mr. Schiffer gave me probably the greatest clue he gave me when I first met him. He said, Jim, if you wanna be wealthy and happy the rest of your life, then learn this lesson well. He said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. There, Mr. Schiffer gave me probably one of the most important clues among so many things he taught me. But this was in in these early days. Mr. Schiffer was very kind, but he was also very abrupt, and he had those interesting questions to ask. I'm giving him a little rundown one day. How? List, he said. Jim, I've only known you a short time, but it is already my honest opinion that for things to change for you, you've got to change. That wasn't quite the answer I was looking for, but that's the answer he gave me, and I pass it along to you on this warm summer evening in the Anthem, California, 1981. For things to change for you, you've got to change. Otherwise, it is not gonna change. Before I met Mr. Schiffer, I used to say, I sure hope things will change, right? That seemed to be my only hope. If it's gonna be change, I'm in the serious trouble. And I then discovered it isn't going to change. So I'm in a serious trouble. See, I can tell you what the 80s are doing to be like. You have dropped into the right place.